Good morning. Happy Thursday. This is the 30th day of December. This is the 69th episode of season 2 of the Be Your Own Hero Show. HERO is an acronym. It means helping everyone reaps optimism. In other words, helping others helps you. It's a reciprocal action. I'm your host. I'm sekouwrites. I'm a professional creative and the creator of what we're now calling the Hero Ministry Movement. So that's my effort to uplift and inspire the unhoused community in as many different ways as possible. So shout out to New Thought Media Network for allowing me the space and opportunity to have this platform and talk about my journey of becoming my own hero. And if this show provides any value, please like, comment, share, spread the news, make a donation, and check out all the things hero related at my website, sekouwrites.com. All that information is in the show notes below. Okay, so I made another addition to Studio D. If you look right there, that's one of my medals. I guess I could pick that up, huh? I guess it's kind of small way back there, but this is one of my running medals. This one is the Run for Justice. This was a 5K earlier this year. Pretty dope, right? Pretty nice medal. Anyway, I'm going to keep adding things to this little studio area behind me. Okay, so that's today's addition to Studio D. All right, Hero Ministry Movement News. Today is day 213 of my run streak. So today was a hard day. I'm trying to figure out if I should talk about that now. I just give the basics now. So today was none of the days are easy. I've said that before. There's been, I think, in my run streak, there's been a few days, maybe 4 or 5, that I wanted to run. And the rest of the days I've had to work for it. Today I had to work extra hard. I took a nap. You know how sometimes you take a nap, but it's too late in the day to take a nap? I did that yesterday. I took a nap too late in the day. So then I woke up in the middle of the night and I was up all night. And so, the alarm was going off as I was going back to sleep. And so it was just hard to get up and get out. But I did it. It's just, the point is that, I guess there's a couple points. The main point is that you can do it. Because everything in me today just wanted to go back to bed. Everything in me today just wanted to go back to bed. But I was able to get through it by micromanaging myself. What I did is I said, all right, look, well, let me just put my sweats on. Okay. Let me just put my sneakers on. And then we're done. Okay. Well, let me just go downstairs. Okay. Just step by step by step. And my intention was, even in terms of the run itself, to baby step it. So I said, all right, I'm only going to run up to the park. And then I'm only going to run around this part of the park. And I did that and got myself all the way up to about 1.7 miles. So all that said, I'm imparting the lesson, if you haven't learned this in life already, that if you micromanage yourself on a difficult task, it makes it easier. And that is a lesson that I am holding on to for me, for other things in my life. Okay, so that's my run report in addition to my social media run report. Go check that out on my social media. And shout out to the heroes who are checking in, watching the show live and later. Good morning, Gladys. Good morning, Tim. Thanks for the cup of coffee. Yeah, Happy New Year coming up fast. Okay, and shout out to everybody, all the heroes who are going to watch the show later. Okay, so just a quick reminder. I know it's far out, but I want to keep talking about this podcast that I've got coming up because it is related to this show. So this podcast is coming up. It's called Let's Talk 1943, hosted by Regina Smithwick and her 2 friends there. And this will be about abundance, which is why they have my podcast right there, Get Rich 101, which, by the way, once again, is now streaming in 38 countries I've never even been to before. Like, it's being listened to in the Maldives. What? In Australia. What? So it's very exciting. Anyway, I am pulling together the details for my first Get Rich 101 seminar. Stay tuned for that, coming up soon. Okay, so mornings in. I did not do my mornings in today. I admit it. I didn't do it. I didn't do my morning practice for all the aforementioned reasons. I got up late and I was just trying to make sure that I got the run done. So I'm going to circle back to something that I read recently and share that with you. I mentioned this book before. Tony Robbins created a book about the game of money. And he created this book by meeting with a number of different people who are luminaries in the field of money. And he was able to gain access to them because he is Tony Robbins. And so he was able to talk to them and ask them about their secrets for wealth. And then he condensed that information into a book called The Game of Money. So I've been reading a little bit of that. And one of the things that really stood out to me, so I'm doing this under Morning Zen, but it's abundance related too. So it'll be both things. So one of the things that really stood out to me is this concept that he calls present bias. Present bias. So present bias is another way of referring to immediate gratification. But here's the example that he talked about. So there was a study where they asked a group of students, well, they had a meeting. They talked about things, and they said, and the question to the group was, when we meet again in 2 weeks, do you want a banana for a snack or do you want chocolate candy? Right? So the day that they were asked that, 75% said that they wanted a banana when they met again in 2 weeks, right? When they actually met again in 2 weeks, 80% picked the chocolate candy, right? So here's the lesson. Self-control in the future is not a problem. Self-control in the future is not a problem. So the way I would put that is theoretical self-control is easy. It's easy when it's theoretical, but when it's time to actually make a decision, people shift. All right, so let me just read this. Self-control in the future is not a problem. It's the same with saving. We know we should be saving, but we'll do it next year. But today, let's go ahead and spend. As a species, we are not wired to choose today over tomorrow. As a species, we are not wired to choose today over tomorrow. That's pretty deep. That's pretty deep because you have to fight your programming, meaning the programming of the species. It's not just you, it's everybody. The programming is to not choose today over tomorrow. And you have to reprogram yourself rather, to choose tomorrow over today. Delayed gratification instead of instant gratification. So save the money, invest in assets. There's an example that's coming to me right now. I've mentioned this guy before. My understanding is that he's an NFL player or was an NFL player, and he wasn't playing and was worried about being cut and not having money. And so he started investing, and he was trying to tell his friends about it, and they weren't really receptive, which is another reason why developing your mindset around money is so important, because that creates the fertile soil to let these ideas sink in and to make different decisions. Anyway, he was trying to tell them about what he learned about money, and they weren't receptive to it. So he started doing these things on his own, and now has a whole channel around making money, around investing. But he said that as he started off, he had to, these are not the words he used, but he had to choose tomorrow over today. Like he would not buy the, let's just say, sneakers that were available today that his friends were getting, and he would use that money to instead buy stock in the sneaker company, the same sneaker company that was selling the sneakers. So the way he started is the way a lot of people started. He started buying things that he used. Like if I'm just using random examples, but if he was a McDonald's fan, he ate at McDonald's often, he would buy stock in McDonald's first before he allowed himself to eat at McDonald's. If he wanted a new pair of sneakers, he forced himself to buy stock in that sneaker company before he bought the pair of sneakers. So that's the way he started himself on this journey of abundance. And now he's where he is. And again, he's got this show on YouTube where he's talking about making money. And I can't remember the exact name of the show, but His name is Zeke, and I feel like it's the Dream Green Show. Zeke's Dream Green Show on YouTube. So check that out. And he's talking about the same thing we're talking about here: abundance. He talks about the stock market, options, real estate, all the different things that he was able to leverage to move himself from one space to another. But the point that I'm making right now is it's really all about mindset. And I'm just going to read that quote again. We're not wired to choose today over tomorrow. So we have to rewire ourselves to choose tomorrow over today. It's hard work, but it's worth it. And that is the path to abundance. And that's a good segue to the affirmation. So let's do the affirmation right quick. And here we go. I am so happy and grateful to be a multimillionaire in every area of my life. I am so happy and grateful to be a multimillionaire in every area of my life. All right, checking back into the comments. Hey, Nan. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Pastor Al. All right, thanks for checking in, folks. And also a reminder, poor people spend, the middle class saves, and the wealthy invests. So if you are spending and saving, you need to also be investing. It's not optional. I'm gonna keep saying that. It's not optional. You have to invest because that's the only way to retain the value of the money that you have. Wherever you're sticking it, wherever you're storing it, it needs to be earning interest. The number that we've been given by one of the books that I read is 10%. We need to be actively seeking investments that yield at least 10% or so in order just to retain the value of the money you have. So reminder on that. Okay, so just resetting the room. It's about 10 o'clock. If you're just joining us, we started at 9:45. It's now a half-hour show. The Be Your Own Hero Show Season 2 is all about spiritual abundance. That message was decided by you, the viewing audience, because you kept putting in the chat, keep talking about money. Keep talking about money. And so now we're 69 episodes in, talking about money, talking about abundance. It's been a wonderful journey. If you missed any of those 69 episodes, you can just go to my Facebook or my YouTube and binge watch and catch up on everything. It's been fascinating. For me, definitely. I hope for you too. Okay, that said, as I mentioned earlier in the show, I took a nap too late last night, so I was up all night. And the interesting thing for me is that I couldn't get settled. My intention was to take a nap and get up and be productive. So I did that, but I didn't feel settled in my productivity. Like I was doing things, I was like, I just didn't feel like this is what I wanted to be doing. It's hard to explain. But at some point, I shifted over to finance, to abundance, to the stock market. And all of a sudden, I settled. I got very settled thinking about and planning around finance. There's something about it that focuses my mind. So that's good for me to know. So that's what I ended up doing early this morning. And I've got a couple of takeaways. So if you've been watching the show, you heard me talk about Warren Buffett's unusual, quote unquote, unusual plan in case he passes away before his wife. If you missed that, just a quick reminder, if he passes away before his wife, he has instructed the financial people around him to put all of his assets into only two places, 90% into index funds in the stock market and 10% into bonds. That's it. That's the whole plan. That's about the simplest plan I've ever heard of. 90% and 10% done. And I mentioned that there was a person who tested it and said that it held up. It did produce much more money than would be expected considering it's so simple. And also that person who did the investigation found a sweet spot at 60-40, 60% index funds and 40% bonds. And again, this person would not have found that sweet spot if he hadn't been investigating the 90-10 ratio. So I say all that to say, I have mentioned it on the show, but I also had not looked into bonds. I knew that at some point I wanted to get some bonds, but late last night, middle of the night, I started looking into bonds and something clicked into place. I've been watching people say that they invest in debt, DEBT. And I didn't understand that. Like, how do you invest in debt? basically the answer is it appears to be bonds. Bonds are loans given to other people, like companies, entities. They raise money in a way by using these bonds. So basically, you're loaning them money by investing in a bond. You're loaning the entity money. Could be the government, could be the company, whatever. You're loaning them money, and you're getting back your money plus a little interest on your money. That's investing in debt. And that brings us all the way back to that idea of debt being a tool, not something to be scared of. But we're not going to get into that right now. That's a whole other can of worms. I feel like that's a show unto itself. That might be a whole week unto itself talking about debt. And I'm still learning that as I go. But the point is that bonds are investing in bonds is investing in debt. So they don't appreciate as fast as stocks can, but they're slow and steady. So the idea of Warren Buffett's 90-10 philosophy or portfolio is that the index funds will grow. I don't want to say rapidly, but will grow steadily because index funds, again, are funds that have large amounts of companies in them. Like the S&P 500 is an index fund, which has 500 of the biggest companies in the United States in it. And also, if any of those companies falls short, someone comes along and takes that company out of the S&P 500 and puts a new company in that's doing well. So tried and true, doing well. Like right now, I think over the past year, it's done about 9.7%, so about 10%. And historically has done around 30% per year. So it's strong. Also, in addition to appreciating in value, it also has a dividend, which is great. And so you can reinvest that dividend to help it grow faster. Anyway, that grows fast. And that when the stock market crashes, because I love the way Warren Buffett says it's going to crash again. People keep thinking it's over. It's not over. There's going to be another crash. You don't know when it's going to happen, but there'll be another stock market crash. And so that is why he has 10% in bonds, because they're slow and steady. So this kind of a seesaw effect. So I say all that to say that that's what I learned about bonds. And that solidified my interest in investing in bonds. And all that said, I started doing the homework that I gave you to do. And I hope some of you have done it. But what I started to do was identify what my ideal portfolio would look like. So I invite you to do this. I invite you to do this. I invite you to do this because when you put it on paper, it shifts the way you think. It really does. I just watched it happen for myself. So you are allocating 100% of your investment funds, not 100% of your money, but 100% of what you have set aside to invest. So let's say that you're already invested in different assets like IRA, savings account, etc. You would add up the number and come up with a dollar amount. And then from there, divide it along the percentage lines that you think are ideal. So if we're using Warren Buffett's portfolio, we'd say, all right, so I'm going to put 90% of that in index funds and 10% of that in bonds. So what's the number? You add up all your assets that are earmarked for investing and figure out what 90% actually equals. Like, what is that number? And then what is the number for 10%? And then start to shift things around to allocate them appropriately. Because what I discovered in doing this early this morning is that my allocations are nowhere near what I want them to be. And it was a bit surprising, really, because as you know, if you've been watching the show, I have a couple different buckets, let's call them, a few different brokerage accounts. And I tend to think of them as islands unto themselves. So I've got, Cash App and TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab. I've got these different brokerage accounts. So historically, I have not thought of the money in each collectively. And I didn't add up the money in each collectively until, 3:00 in the morning this morning. And I was like, oh, okay, if I think about it that way, then I've got a lot of work to do in terms of moving things to the right allocation that I'd like. And that encouraged me to shift the allocation. And I have not done this before. I've just been kind of just squirreling away little nuggets of money here and there. But this Warren Buffett portfolio has really inspired me to think about exactly where I want the money to go. And so I think it is safe to say that, I mean, I don't know where you are in your finances. I'm not trying to make any assumptions, but it is safe to say that index funds are tried and true and will keep lumbering along and doing well. So 90% is a lot. Warren Buffett's portfolio of 90-10 is a lot, but I'm thinking 50 to 90% is a good way to go. Again, I'm not a financial planner. I'm just thinking about his level of expertise, the amount of wisdom. I'm thinking about the experiment where the person tried to follow up on Warren Buffett's portfolio and the information he found. So it seems like the bulk of what you have should be in index funds as the safe place in the stock market. And then you decide how many other percentages you want to play in other arenas. But the point is to decide. And I'm telling you, it really shifts your thinking around how your money is allocated. If you think, all right, I want to have 10% set aside for, let's say, the metaverse, then you know what that number is, like what that dollar amount number is for now. You know what that dollar amount number is, and you can shift your money around to make sure that you have exposure for the metaverse. So it's a very interesting exercise. I really invite you to do it. I'm going to keep doing it because what I discovered early this morning is the more I did it, the more my numbers shifted. I was like, all right, well, maybe I want to do 60% here, maybe 50%, maybe 20. Like, how do I want to allocate this? And I think for me, I'm choosing to go heavy on index funds, obviously, seems to be tried and true, and a decent amount on what I'm calling Planet Techno. And if you've been watching the show, you know that's my personal phrase that means NFTs, metaverse, cryptocurrency, all that stuff that I think is going to do very well once it finishes mainstreaming. But that said, I think the nuts and bolts of my portfolio need to be index funds because that's the tried and true. Okay, so all that said, if you haven't checked out investopedia.com, check them out. They've got a lot of good information. I spent a lot of time on their website early this morning. So check them out and double check the things that I'm talking about now, see what works for you. Also, early in the morning this morning, I opened another brokerage account. So what happened was I was watching Zeke, the guy I mentioned earlier, and he was talking about his journey of investing. And he said that you could get free stocks by signing up for a brokerage account at Webull. Webull, Webull. And I was like, free stocks? How does that work? So the curiosity drove me down the rabbit hole and I signed up. And sure enough, they give you free stock. Now, the stock that I got is not a stock that I would have purchased. I can't even remember the name of it now, but it's free. And so I got a free stock. And after, I think, 15 days, I'm able to trade it if I want to. So I can close that position and use the money to purchase something that I would purchase. Webull does have fractional shares, and that's my alarm. They have fractional shares, and they also have a desktop version. So you can go on your computer to webull.com. Once again, that's webull.com and create a version on your desktop. They've got fractional shares and free stock. So I'm pretty excited about that. The stock that I got was like, I don't know, $4. So I will at some point close that position. When it fully vests into my account, I'll close that position and put the money into something that is more in alignment with what I want. But I appreciate the fact that you can just get free stock by signing up for Webull. So check that out. Also, a reminder in the same vein, if you sign up for Coinbase, Base.com, Same thing. They offer tests, and if you take the tests successfully, they give you free cryptocurrency. So I've got free cryptocurrency in my Coinbase account, and also a better understanding of what those cryptocurrencies do. Because just a quick reminder about cryptocurrency, it has a stated purpose. It's programmable, so it does something. It's not just a means of exchange. It's a means of exchange and it does something. So if you want some free stock and you want some free cryptocurrency, you can check out Webull, Webull, and you can check out Coinbase, Coinbase. Both of those companies, by the way, are publicly traded. So you could buy stock in Webull. Yeah, buy stock in Webull and stock in Coinbase. Just an FYI. But before you do that, you should decide what percentage of your investment portfolio you want to set aside for individual stocks. Because we've talked about this a long time ago, there are also ETFs. So in between index funds, which are huge, let's call them conglomerates of a stock with all these companies in it, 500 companies, and individual stocks where you're buying one stock at a time, there are ETFs right there in the middle. And these are big, I'm going to keep using that word conglomerate, even though it's not the right word, big, smaller conglomerates where you've got like 10, 15, 20, 50, 60 companies in the ETF. So again, it's a fairly safe bet because as with the index fund, if any of those companies starts to fall behind, someone will come in and swap them out. Why am I mentioning this? Because if you want exposure to a specific area, like let's just keep using the metaverse, you want exposure to metaverse, you can find an ETF that covers the metaverse and you can buy like 50, 60 companies at the same time and therefore mitigate your risk. There's your diversity. You've got 50 or 60 shares, 50 or 50 kind of microscopic positions in the same area, in the same field. And so that minimizes your risk as opposed to you picking one of those 50 companies and then maybe hit or missing. Like you might hit, but you might miss. And the way you can hedge your bet is to buy into an ETF. So as I said, I'd spent a lot of time with this morning. I am using my 100% allocations to figure out where I want to put funds. And as I do that, I'm thinking index is the first line of defense, and then ETFs. And then I'm going to keep a small percentage, like maybe 10% for individual stocks. I think that's the way I'm going to go. Now, that's not what my portfolio looks like right now, which is why it's important to do this exercise so that you can allocate your portfolio correctly. And so that if you get a lump sum of money tomorrow, you'll know exactly what to do. You don't have to try to figure out what to do with the money. You can just shift things easily. Okay, all that said, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for prayer time right now at 10:15. Stay tuned for Sip with Rev Melissa at 10:30. Just a reminder, she is on winter solstice, so this is a pre-recorded show. What we're showing is her first week on the New Thought Media Network, where she's talking about the prayer of Jabaz. It's been very interesting to watch now and see the differences between then and now. It's fascinating for me. I hope it's fascinating for you too. So keep doing, be a hero, be your own financial hero. Rewire your brain for tomorrow and not today. And I'll see you tomorrow. Later.